Hello, welcome back to the show. So in today's video, I'll be talking about why Google might be in trouble. So in today's video, I'll be covering a few things. We'll be covering the claim that Google is in trouble, a cigarette butt investing stock, as well as some questions that you guys have left me in the comment section below. So let's talk about the risks for Google first. So there are three main risks over here: the DOJ risk, the DOJ lawsuit that they're having over here, CapEx spending risk. So currently now Google is spending a lot on CapEx, and currently the CapEx is hurting their cash flow statement. So you're seeing the free cash flow coming in a lot lesser than over the past few years, simply because they're spending a lot of money on capex, because your free cash flow is operating cash flow minus capex. And that's why your free cash flow is a lot lesser now. But over the next few years, if they cannot generate returns on all this capex that they spend, then there'll be a lot of depreciation over the next few years, which will hit their income statement as well. So that is typically what you don't want for your businesses. You normally want your businesses to have returns on all the capex spend over here. And if there's no returns for Google over here, it could be detrimental for the business. And then the third one is simply just the weakening of Google search. So the DOJ over here is chasing a lot of different divestitures. What they want is they want Google to divest Chrome, edX, DoubleClick, as well as Android OS. So out of this four over here, edX is for bidding of ads. DoubleClick is for publishers to basically sell their ad inventory. Chrome is the distributor of the Google search platform. And Android OS is simply the operating system that all your different smartphone devices use. So for Google over here, the most important business out of this four over here is your Chrome as well as your DoubleClick. Those two are sort of like a network for Google to basically extend out the ad tech services over here. So for Google over here, another problem in the business is simply just the Google search volumes declining. So as you can see over here, the Google network portion is down around 11%. This was found in Google's 2024 10K over here. And the impressions dropping over here is not desirable for this business. There are two arguments for this. The first argument is that the ads are becoming more efficient. The return on ad spend is higher now, and that's why they're publishing less ads. But the counter argument to this is simply that people are using less ads, people are using less search. And I'm leaning more towards the negative side because it's a negative number, and normally a negative number has its negative connotations. And if you are to compare it to Meta, for example, this is Meta's ad impressions over the past few years or so. And although it's been declining, it's been decelerating, the number is still positive. So for Google over here, this Google network comprises of YouTube, AdMob, and all the different other small Google ad services over here. But the main problem that I have with this Google network declining is that it comprises of Google YouTube, and Google YouTube is actually quite a decent business, but seeing this number over here is quite concerning. Next portion over here is simply just Google paid clicks volume. So as you can see, Google's paid click volumes growth has been declining over the past few years. So we went from a high of around 27% growth down to around a 2% growth in its latest quarter over here. So this clearly shows that there's some form of deceleration in terms of Google search. Again, the two arguments are that number one, the paid clicks are becoming more efficient, there's more returns on it, or number two, people are simply just using less search. So the other concerning thing when it comes to owning Google is simply just the super investors selling. So when I see investors like Li Lu, like Bill Ackman, like Chris Hohn selling, then there is clearly something that is fundamentally shifting in this business. Because for Li Lu and Chris Hohn, for example, these two investors over here, they are highly fundamentally driven investors. And when you see them selling 15 and 20% of their stake, when Google was at around $150, it clearly showed that there was some form of risk when it comes to owning this business. And it's concerning to see all these investors basically selling out their stake. So this is what Dev Kantesaria has previously said about Google.
AI, there's massive investments being made by the leaders today. But you take something like Google search. ChatGPT just came out with their plan for ChatGPT search. Other companies are working on search. I think search looks very different 10 years from now than it does today. And what does that mean for a company like Google?
So what Dev Kantesaria is saying over here is that Google is at risk because no one knows how search will be 10 years from now. So this uncertainty that everyone is having over here could eventually turn into a risk. So the uncertainty now is that no one knows how search will look like. And then the risk, which could materialize in the future, is that Google search is actually declining. So this is what Chris Hohn has also said about his Google stake. So he said that Google is our riskiest investment, and he acknowledged that Google is risky, but there are other portions of the business that is basically protecting this moat over here. So they have their YouTube, they have the cloud, and potentially Waymo as well coming up to defend the Google empire. But when Chris Hohn says that Google is the riskiest stock, then it is time for you to listen as well. So this is what Sundar Pichai has said about AI cannibalizing Google search over here.
From Wall Street, the talk in Silicon Valley is Google getting disrupted in this moment. AI seems to create a fundamentally different paradigm for human-computer interaction. consumers are asking AI questions through chat interfaces. They're getting complete answers. They're engaging with AI systems in a way that they traditionally didn't do with the classical search interface. Is Google at risk of being truly disrupted from AI? Is the core search business, which the ad revenue in search is about a $200 billion run rate out of $360 billion of your total revenue, most of your profits. And it seems like Google's in a really challenging quandary where if you disrupt yourselves too quickly, all of that revenue can go away. It can be really impactful. So is Google being disrupted by AI at this moment, or is Google leaving?
It's a good framework, good question to talk about. I've definitely, for almost a decade, one of the first things I did was to think of the company as AI first. It was very clear to us. We had Google Brain underway in 2012. We acquired DeepMind in 2014. 2015, when I became the CEO, I said, look, the technology is really evolving. The reason we were excited to approach our work as AI first is because we really felt that AI is what will drive the biggest progress in search. And so, I think even the last couple of years, I viewed this as an extraordinary opportunity for search. I think if you look at how much information means to people, I think each person is going to have access to information in a way they've never had before. So it feels very far from a zero-sum construct to me. And we are seeing it empirically when people are using search. Obviously, there are a couple of major things we've done with search. Transformers drove some of the biggest innovations in search with BERT and MUM, dramatically improved search quality. We launched AI overviews about a year ago. It's now being used by over 1.5 billion users in over 150 countries. It's expanding the types of queries people can type in. And we see it empirically, the nature of queries is expanded. So there are whole new use cases coming into search. We find for queries where we trigger AI overviews, we see query growth, and the growth continues over time. Getting the feedback from AI overviews, we're testing it in labs. This whole new dedicated AI experience called AI moat coming to search. We'll speak about it more at Google I/O. And in AI mode, you can have a full-on AI experience in search, including follow-on conversational queries. And we're bringing our cutting-edge models there, where the models are actually working to answer your questions, using search as a real native tool, right? And there, the queries, people are typing in queries like literally long paragraphs, right? The average query length is somewhere 2 to 3 times is what we see in search as it existed 2 years ago. So we are seeing people respond. Search is always, from the outside, people look at it and say, search, kind of looks easy to do. The craft of search is very hard. Over 2 decades, I think we've had a real North Star of understanding what users want in search. And, you've been here, we're kind of a very metrics-driven company. We kind of know what works. Users are our North Star. And empirically, we see that people are engaging more and using the product more, right? So all that, to your question about innovator's dilemma, I think the dilemma only exists if you treat it as a dilemma, right? For me, all along in technology, you have these massive periods of innovation and you lean into it as hard as you can. It's the only way to do it. When mobile came, everyone was like, well, it's like you're not going to have the real estate, like how will ads work, all that stuff. Mobile was a transition which ended up working great. I can give great examples, right? Like TikTok has come in. YouTube has thrived since the moment TikTok has come in, right? And there was a whole new format. We did Shorts when we launched Shorts. Shorts absolutely didn't monetize anywhere near long form, but we just leaned into the user experience. And over time, we figured out monetization to follow. So, to me, you don't think about it as a dilemma, because users, you have to innovate to stay ahead and you kind of lean in that direction.
So Google is clearly attempting to use AI to further monetize its Google search as well as its AI offerings. But the problem here is that are AI overviews really as profitable as Google search? Same for the AI mode that they're launching soon. And so Sundar Pichai, what he said previously is that for the previous example of your TikTok and your short form video ads in YouTube over here, At the start, YouTube Shorts weren't very profitable, but as soon as they basically improved on it, it became more and more profitable over time. So his argument is that AI overviews now, although they might not be as profitable as your actual search, it could be profitable in the future as well. It probably will be, and that is his argument that he's trying to make over here. He's basically saying that AI is becoming a tailwind for Google, not so much a headwind, and AI will basically evolve Google over time. So this is your AI overview over here. So your AI overview over here, what it does is it shows a paragraph. Basically, you type in a question and then they'll give you an answer over here. But the problem with all these different offerings that Google is having right now is simply just that when your AI overviews, they come in like this, it could lead to reduction in user interaction with search over here. So in the past, when you're searching a question, you have to click into every single web to basically find the result. But over here, because the results are so easily found, you can just type and then your AI overviews will give you an answer. It could lead to less time being spent on search, which will lead to less revenues for search over here. So currently, I don't think AI overviews is very much monetizable, but let's see how Google evolves over time with this offering over here. As for why I'm investing in Google, the company has a search business that is still showing strong numbers, and the other segments are growing rapidly as well. So in the trailing 12 months, Google Cloud grew net income by 200%, basically a 3x. Now about $6.6 billion of net income out of the $110 billion that the entire Alphabet generates. And for YouTube over here, it's about $9 billion as well. But if you're to plug in the numbers over here, this is a possible scenario that I've come up with. So if Google Cloud grows net income by 30% over the next 5 years, that will give you around a 25 billion in 2030. And if YouTube grows net income by around 12% over the next 5 years, which will give it around a $16 billion net income in 2030. And if Google search slows to around a 5% growth for the next 5 years, that will be around $116 billion in 2030. That will work out to be around $152 billion in 2030. So $157 billion over here, and assuming a 11.5 billion shares outstanding, that will give you around an EPS of $13.65. And assuming a 19 times earnings, which is similar to what it's trading at right now, this will give you a $260 stock price. So there's limited upside from here if Google search is not growing. So in summary, investing in Google means investing in search because search is an integral part of Google. Without search, Google will crumble. As we saw in the numbers earlier, the upside is very much limited in terms of the stock price. You will get probably a 60% over the next 5 years or so, which works out to be around a 10% CAGR. So the upside is limited if growth slows in search and if search stagnates. We're in a pivotal point for Google over here. And whether or not they can innovate is to be seen. So if Google can successfully innovate and basically defend its search empire, then this stock over here will basically give you unlimited upside. So over here, the uncertainty now is that Google search is being in competition with your LLMs. But that uncertainty could turn into real risk if Google search stagnates. So on a risk to reward scale over here, it is high risk, high reward for Google. If Google can basically innovate and turn their AI offerings into a monetizable stream of income for Google search over here, like what they did with YouTube Shorts, then you will see Google's stock price basically having unlimited upside from this price. But if Google stagnates, if Google search starts to slow down, then you will see the valuation and the multiple coming down as well for Google over here. So I view this as a high risk and high reward scenario over here. And for me, I'm still holding on to my Google stock over here. It is a company that is still undervalued, but when it goes to around fair value or slightly overvalued as well, I might consider trimming my position simply because the uncertainty surrounding this stock could eventually turn into a risk over here. Next portion over here, I'll be talking about some cigarette butt investing stocks. So cigarette butt investing is a form of troubled asset investment. In this strategy, you buy low price stocks in struggling companies that should be worth a lot more than its current price. So take one last path from the stock and then move on. Buffett loves this. So SiriusXM is a company that is sort of like in the cigarette butt category over here. So SiriusXM is a monopoly in your satellite radio company. It is the only company in the US that provides satellite radio, and there's high barriers to entry into your satellite radio sector over here because there's high costs accompanied by shooting the satellites up. So if you were to look at SiriusXM's earnings last year, the earnings were negative because they spent a lot of money to try and shoot the satellites up into space. So the problem with this business over here is simply just the business competition with all your different new music providers. So for example, your Spotify, your Apple Music, as well as your YouTube Music, they're all taking share from SiriusXM over here. But SiriusXM is a stock that Warren Buffett has been buying over the past few quarters or so. The stock is currently now trading at a 7 times forward earnings, 8 times price to free cash flow, and they have a payout ratio of around 30%, which makes it up to be around a 4% dividend yield. So if they give out 100% of their earnings as dividends over here, this could give you around a 12% returns for this stock if it holds its current multiple. So for SiriusXM over here, it's a monopolistic company in the sunset industry, and that is what Warren Buffett likes. So for me over here, I've been looking at this one, and I may consider investing into this one if I can find some sort of catalyst behind this stock. Last portion over here, I'll be talking about some questions that you guys have left me in the comment section below. So the first one over here, it says, yo, none of these are deep value. Deep value is more like a company that basically looks like a piece of crap. But if you actually go deeper as in deep value, you find there's significant value there. GameStop, for example, was an example of this before. Obviously, it went crazy during COVID. So I do agree with him. I absolutely agree with him. GameStop is a company with deep value. So if you were to look at the fundamentals itself, the fundamentals has been growing rapidly over the past few years, rapidly in the wrong direction, of course. And for GameStop over here, the only reason that it went up in price was because it was a deep value stock and not because someone was hyping it up. So I agree with this statement over here. And yes, GameStop is a deep value stock. Next question over here, Trump criticized your PBMs, United Health, CVS, and Cigna. He said he wants to eliminate all this middleman role. Would it be catastrophic impact to United Health on Trump's orders? There's also some Democrats trying to introduce legislation to break up healthcare conglomerates like United Health. How real are these risks to United Health? So for United Health over here, they serve around 140 million patients over here. They have 140 million insurance takers. And if you listen to what Warren Buffett has said about healthcare in the past few annual meetings as well, he said that healthcare is a problem in the US that cannot be fixed, and United sits at the top of it. So if Warren Buffett thinks that it cannot be fixed, then I don't think all these different Democrats here can fix the problem. And for United Health over here, if you have legislation coming up to break up United Health, then you will see 140 million people in the US being impacted. So I think the problem is more than just United Health, is the entire healthcare system as a whole. And of course, there's risk to all your different regulations, basically taking away United Health's business over here. But I think the government needs the insurers, and more than them wanting to basically remove all these insurers over here. And I mean, the CMS portion over here where they basically give ratings to all your different insurance company. It's sort of like them trying to defend the insurance company as well already. I hope you guys have found this one useful and invest safe.